So right-clicking on it should work, and then I can select image to open it up. So now that I know that the link is going to the CMS user guide, more appropriate alt text would be CMS user guide. Now an assistive technology user will know where that link is trying to take them versus the link just describing the image. So we have that same picture of Rocky, or a alt text of Rocky for some people. So take a look at where it's linked to and take a moment to determine what appropriate alt text, if the image was there, would be in that case. And again, feel free to ask questions or let us know if the CMS is being temperamental as well.
Yep, and I also just realized that for some reason Teams is also haunted and didn't start the recording. So I just started about 30 seconds ago. So yes, things things happen. This and the photo of Rocky is actually right on our CMS user guide. So it's a live image. It's been a live image for months. Fun things like to happen when we're live. You're muted, Charlotte.
Thank you for being patient with us, just like Annalise said, as we're having our technical difficulties. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at where Rocky is linked to. So Rocky is going to go usfbulls.com, which is the USF Athletics site. So I'm going to open up Rocky's image properties and change this alt text to instead go to USF Athletics, because that's where the website's taking us. And save. And I'm going to save because I trust no technology this morning. I have been led astray. Okay, so our manatee friends and Rocky are pretty straightforward, right? Let's up the complexity a little bit. Here is an image of Youngmi Lee, PhD, from the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences. And I'm sure many folks have similar images on their site, people, maybe some decorative elements going on. With the help of Patty Harrison and CBCS, we've come up with several examples of alt text to choose from with differing levels of detail. So at its most basic, this picture's alt text could be Youngmi Lee. Straightforward, simple. I recommend going a step further to convey the type of picture this is, though, with headshot of Youngmi Lee or close-up of Youngmi Lee if you feel the term headshot suggests more of a professionally taken photo. The image does have some graphical elements going on, though, so we could expand on that and make the alt text headshot of Youngmi Lee overlaid a background of the words College of Behavioral and Community Sciences repeated vertically. We generally recommend, though, keeping alt text short and sweet, so something like headshot of Youngmi Lee in the foreground with the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences text repeated in the top 2/3 of the background and textured green in the bottom 1/3 of the background would be too much in most situations. But remember how I mentioned earlier that alt text also depends on context. That additional information could be important if the image was being used as a graphic design example or a teaching aid. So I've decided, though, that the graphical elements in this picture serve more of a decorative element purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Youngmi Lee and open the image and change the alt text to headshot of Youngmi Lee and save again. Trust you not, CMS. So for your practice image, scrolling down, you have a picture of real law with some overlaid text. What do you think would be appropriate for alt text in this situation?
Don't be shy. Put it in the chat. We want to see what you all are thinking about.
And don't be shy. Yeah, don't worry about putting it in the chat. You're not going to embarrass yourself. I've already embarrassed myself plenty this morning, obviously. But yes, yes, give me the alt text. Okay, we have President Ria Law speaking at podium with overlaid text, inauguration of President Ria Law. We have USF President Ria Law speaking at commencement ceremony. So I'm going to go ahead with Renee's because she is not only describing what Ria Law is doing in the image, but she's also making sure that she is reproducing the text on the image. So that way, all the information on this image is conveyed to someone who can't see it. So I'm going to steal Renee's alt text, go over here and open the image and do that. I will say, just to err on the side of caution, though, I'm going to delete the quotation marks because sometimes certain punctuation will play a little bit funny with alt text and things like that. So let's just, with how things are going today, let's just be careful. And I'm going to click save and save. And then after Ria Law, we've reached the final boss of our alt text, the infographic. So like I just said, we always want to make sure that any text in an image is reproduced in alt text. But sometimes there's just too much going on, and whether it's a lot of simple text or some complex diagrams. Our infographic example is a checklist for onboarding students with a title, some little intro text, and a list of steps for them to take. In these situations, we should briefly describe what the image is and then direct users to an extended description, which is written in plain text in the page's body copy. So let's click on the image and open up the properties and change this incredibly unhelpful alt text to something like onboarding game checklist, extended description follows, and click save. And then immediately after the infographic, I'm going to make sure that I am on a paragraph, and I'm going to reproduce that intro text, the complete the checklist to track your progress. And then I will paste some stuff I prepared beforehand. I'm going to turn this into a list. And so this is a fun thing. I pasted it as a list. It's like, no, I'm one list item. I say, no, I'm going to make you multiple list items. You cannot defeat me. Bam, there we go. So now we have users coming to the site. We'll have a onboarding game checklist, extended description follows, and then immediately after, they get the rest of the text that is in that image. For this practice image, though, what do you think would be appropriate alt text? Should there be an extended description? And I will say, don't feel obligated to recreate all the text from the image for this workshop, just enough to get a feel for what you would do in a real life scenario. I have a little bit of a head start. I've already typed up the text myself to copy and paste, so don't sweat that. Okay, so Renee and Leilani both posted examples and both of those work very well. Basically, what they're doing is describing the text and the image, the high impact practices. Leilani goes a step further, makes sure that people know that it's got the logo right there in the center. And they're both telling people that there will be a description following after it. So I'm going to click the image, go in here, put something simple like high impact practices, extended description follows, just because I had that prepared already. Save, and then after the image, I'm going to paste a list of all of the practices that are displayed in the graphic, starting with first year seminars and moving clockwise around the image. So I'm going to highlight all these that I pasted and turn them into a nice list so that assistive technology users know that there will be a list. And generally, assistive technology, when it encounters a list, will tell the user how many items are in the list too, which is pretty helpful. So that ends alt text. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? So Renee asked if using an infographic, or mentioned if using an infographic to illustrate info is not a space saver. Correct. It's really not. As long as there's if there's a decent amount of content in there, you need to make sure that it's still apparent to individuals, and also keep in mind that when you have an image with a lot of content in it on mobile, when it shrinks to down for the mobile screen, it might also be difficult to see. Can you put the text in a drop down bar, like in one of the toggle sections? Yep. You could indicate in the alt text extended description follows in like within a toggle section or anything like that, or just make sure that the toggle text says something like show extended description. But yeah, I agree with Renee. That is a great idea, Jade. I like that. I didn't even think about that.
This is why we ask for you all's feedback, because then we can improve.
Yes.
Woohoo!
So any other comments, questions about alt text? If not, I will move on to our friend headings and we'll start that. Okay, so now that all of the images on the page are tidied up, we're going to talk about headings. Headings are used to convey and organize the information on your page, and they range from heading 1, also H1, to heading 6 or H6. In the CMS page template, though, the H1 is reserved for the section title. It looks like this if you have the big image, if you have like just a little border bar thing there. And the H2 is reserved for the content title. So this means that in your WYSIWYG editor, you should only be using H3, H4, H5, and H6. If you have a gallery page template, you can use H2 through H6. And it might be a little bit different if you're using like a news one, or if you're using a custom template like the ones for arts or for homecoming. So those might be a little bit different. You can always reach out to us and we'll help you know like what heading order you need to go into there. So headings can be nested to create subsections of content. For example, I'm going to create a little text overview of this workshop with some fake summaries for each section. So I'm just going to copy some of this lorem ipsum here and go up here, and I still have like a little H3. Perfect. So I'm going to make it say content outline. And then I'm going to add that fake text I copied. And then I'm going to create, oh, sorry, I skipped over my notes. Please keep in mind that you should use proper capitalization and let the templates handle styling. So I know that the H3 styles are in all caps. When I'm typing it, I'm making sure I'm just making the C in content and the O in outline uppercase. This means that screen readers will then pronounce those words correctly instead of maybe like trying to make it sound like an abbreviation or like say each letter individually. You can run into issues with that. So we just want to make sure that all the actual text we're putting on the page, proper capitalization, let all the styles handle manipulating it. So the sections we have on this page, we're talking about today, are alt text, headings, and tables. So this is an H3. Next level down is an H4. So I'm going to choose an H4 and make this one text and put my little summary there. And then I'm going to make another H4 for headings and put the little summary there and make a third H4 for tables and put a little summary there. So when we covered alt text, we touched on basic alt text, linked alt text, more complex alt text, and infographics. So that means I can create some more subsections under alt text using the next heading level down, H5. I'll go to H5 and do basic alt text, some more fake summary, back to H5 and create the next one, linked alt text. Then scroll down so we can put H5 more complex alt text. And then finally, the last H5 for infographics, our arch nemesis, and then save. So now in preview, you can see that the headings have organized this content visually and in a way that is apparent to individuals using assistive technology. So note that we didn't skip any heading levels while descending. We used an H3 for content outline, then we used an H4 for alt text, and then H5 for basic alt text. And then we closed those subsections by then jumping back up to an H4. If we didn't have anything other than alt text that we had talked about, maybe we would have just jumped back up to here, like an H3 is closing out that section. So now back in edit mode, let's scroll down the page after alt text, all these images that may or may not be appearing, and get down to headings. Boop. Okay, it's located right after the infographic alt text. Can anyone identify what's wrong here? So we've gotten to the part of the workshop where it's less you guys having to do the typey thing and me asking you questions. Does indenting affect accessibility? If you're doing the indenting via like space, it can, because what it's doing on the back end is just adding a bunch of like little code bits and stuff like that. So it's preferable that if you have any indenting, you want to handle that via CSS. Like you want to keep your content as clean as possible and leave any styling to the system. If you are in a situation where you feel like some indenting would be really helpful, let us know and we can see if we have something already in place that we can utilize for you, or if that's something that we should build as like a new snippet or a new component that would be helpful for everyone in the CMS. Ooh, the indent tool. Let's see what the indent tool does. Increase indent. Ooh. I'll have to look at that. I haven't played around with that. I'm going to make a note over here. I'm going to tentatively say that the indent tool, what it might be doing is adding some CSS or something like that, in which case it should be fine. Eric says subheading is not an H5. You are partially correct, Eric. There's another issue as well. But yes, what Eric noticed is that these subheadings, while they look similar to the H5s, they're lying to you. They're actually just bolded text. Untrustworthy. The other issue is the actual heading that says headings. It says it's an H4 right now, but what that does is it's putting it under the infographics along the same level, like grouped together with infographics example and practice, when technically this is a whole new section. So it should be an H3. So let's use the WYSIWYG editor to highlight this and change it to an H3. And then these lying subheadings, we're going to unbold them and make them an H4 instead. So highlight it, unbold it, make it an H4. So if text is intended as a heading, it should be utilizing a heading tag versus styling it like with the bold text and such like that. So since the heading's now is H3, they're H4s, that's all good. But if we scroll down to the bottom of the page right here, we have a similar situation, but in reverse. So here we have a nice message thanking everyone for attending this workshop. We're in the future now, but it's not a heading, but it's utilizing an H3 to apply some fancy emphasis to it. Headings should not be used as a way to style text because it is conveying information for assistive technology and for content outlines and all that jazz. So let's change this back to normal text. So no longer a heading 3, but now a paragraph, but we can still bold it so it receives that emphasis on the page. And I will save because I trust nothing. Does anyone have any questions about headings before we move on to tables? Okay, no more headings. You had your moment. Now we're in the home stretch. Tackle a table. So our table right here looks okay, right? Wrong. It is sneakily hiding some issues just below the surface. So you can follow along on your page as I tackle this table because I'm going to be making some adjustments to it. And so if you just want to familiarize yourself with it, you can, or if you just want to listen, that's cool too. So first, tables should utilize a caption, which functions as a heading element of sorts for the entire table. Ours is missing its caption though. So in the WYSIWYG editor, I want to right-click within the table and select Table Properties. This will open up a modal window, and there's a little checkbox over here for Show Caption. If we select that and save, a new row appears at the top of our table. I'm going to click into it, and we can see that we're within the caption element now, because there's this thing at the bottom of the WYSIWYG editor where it shows you the HTML path, like down elements that you're in, and it's saying caption. So since this is a table about courses taught by the digital team, we're going to set the caption to digital team courses. Now, the second thing our table needs is a table header row. This is different from the caption. The table right here looks like it has a header row, but again, it's lying to us despite it being bolded. Just like how the WYSIWYG editor's path noted when we were in the table's caption, we can click in this faux header and see that it is actually just in normal table cells, TD or table data cells, with bolded text, that little strong element right there, within a table row, within the normal body of the table, or T body. Now, another way to tell if a table in the CMS has a correctly formatted, this is kind of like a little cheat mode, you can view it on mobile or very narrow on the desktop, like squish it down. In preview mode, you can click this open responsive preview button in the top right to emulate what pages look like on mobile. So I'm going to click that and choose the little preview mobile width. And now it looks like it's on a mobile phone. And I'm going to scroll down. So on mobile, we have tables set to collapse to 2 columns to kind of save space and not cause horizontal scrolling. We can see here that where table headers are supposed to appear on the left and content on the right, in this example, the left column is empty, and those so-called headers are appearing on the right with the rest of the content. So we know that this table is not formulated correctly. It is in disguise. So let's start by correcting our table situation by unbolding this text in that first row of content. So unbold course and unbold instructor. Then we're going to right-click in that table row and select row and row properties. Here we're going to change the row type from body to header and then click save. So now that little path indicator at the bottom, when I click in this row, it says it's a T head instead of a T body. So for table header. Next, we need to right-click within each of that row's cells and select cell and then cell properties. Here we'll change the cell type from cell to header cell. click save, and I'll do it over here as well. Cell properties, cell type, header cell, save. So now we can see that the path indicator shows these are no longer TDs, they're THs, so table header cells, and they're also styled to appear bold. So we don't have to add that bold styling. The CSS, all the style sheets are taking care of that for us. Now remember, both the row and the cells need to be updated in order for the table header to be correct. So I'm going to save it and come over here for preview and scroll all the way back down. And now we can see that the table headers are correctly showing up in that left column. So we're like, okay, cool. Our table headers are correct. We're all good. Now, for a simple table like this, assistive technology may be able to determine that these header cells, course and instructor, correspond with their columns. Like, okay, this column is courses, this column is instructors. However, we should utilize an attribute called scope to make sure that those header cells are associated with the correct content. We don't want to leave this to chance. So what I'll do is I'll click back in that course cell, right click, and go back to cell and cell properties. And here you can see that there's an option labeled scope. So we're going to click that and select column. By selecting column, we're letting assistive technology know that course and instructor are headings for their respective columns. So I'm going to save that and then come over here to instructor, right click, cell properties, and change its scope from none to column and click save and save again. So since tables can be finicky with responsive design, aka when a website automatically adjusts its appearance based on range of display sizes, I highly recommend keeping your tables simple. If you have a complex table, though, don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'll help you figure out the best way to display that content on your page. So far this year, we just pulled this up like yesterday, over 50% of our website visitors have been on mobile devices. So we want to make sure that things are formatted correctly and your tables look great. So again, reach out to us. Happy to chat about tables and how we can make them look good. Now, if you create a table using one of our little handy dandy table snippets in the CMS, all these features, the captions, the table headers, the table header cells, will be in place. However, if you add additional columns, you may still need to set the scope of that header cell. So for example, let's go back into edit mode, create a new row. I'm going to click on Insert Snippet button, change the category to Tables, and just select Table Border and insert it. So a new table has been added to the page. You can see it has table caption, and it's got little table headers already there. You can see the little TH and the T head. And if I go to the cell and cell property, then see its header cell, scope of column. Awesome, great, we're good to go. But my table doesn't have 3 columns, it needs 4 columns. So when I add a new column, by right-clicking, going to column, insert column after, I'm going to make heading 4. So we can see that it is a header cell, it's TH. But when I right-click inside it and go to cell properties, while it is a header cell, its scope is none. So I want to change that from none to column and click save. Now, this is a moment when I reveal my shame to you all. I do have to apologize because any table created from snippet before today likely does not have scope applied by default because I thought column scope is just inherent and always applied. I was very wrong and I learned that. So now new tables created via snippets will have that scope for column set moving forward. So any new tables, awesome. If you're worried about your tables, like where's the scope? Just reach out to us and we'll help you fix it all up. So a table caveat though, tables should only be used for structured sets of data, not as a design aid. So for example, tables are great for displaying courses like on this page, or if you have a list of contact information kind of thing. But if you want to lay out content into columns, probably better to use something like the content to column snippet instead of a table. So tables appear to be being used for layout in the WYSIWYG editor, like, like this is a table technically right here. But the templates perform something called table transformations on the back end, where they take that table code and use it to find the stuff and spit it out into accessible code.